Welcome back all of you to the afternoon sessions of ICDSE 2014. We now have the invited talk by Dr. Ullas Nambiar. Dr. Ullas Nambiar is currently working as the lead research scientist at the CTO office of EMC India Center of Excellence, Bangalore. Dr. Ullas received a PhD in computer science from Arizona State University. Dr. Ullas is a senior member and distinguished speaker of the ACM and an adjunct faculty at IIIT Delhi. He has over 15 years of experience in data management and analytics research. His current focus at EMC is primarily on tackling big data analytics and cloud computing challenges in healthcare delivery systems of emerging economies. His core interests include challenges faced in the data integration for analytics due to the cross-fertilization of mobiles, social media, and Internet of Things. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Just trying to figure out where she's sitting. Just hear us out. Thank you, everyone. We are 5 minutes behind schedule, and as usual, I have a lot of slides. Okay. And the 15-minute break, if you are seeing what I was doing, I have this sort of saying that no presentation is ever complete. So I look at the presentation, there are a whole bunch of stuff. As presentations go, this is not something I am doing the first time. So I try to reuse, not reinvent, right? So a lot of stuff from the previous presentation was there, and I would have to say sorry. Now with the delay, I don't have to say. But once again, welcome. I hope you had a good lunch, right? This is going to be heavy. I promise you that. My sort of aim of late has been twofold. One, I try to do things. So to brief background, I think you heard a little bit of kind of a verbose, glorified bio that usually people tend to give out when they want to be invited, which is what you heard. Simply to say, I was born in Kannur to my parents, but luckily my parents moved out from Kerala. Okay? And my father was settled in Gujarat, where I did my education at MS University, the only university in India, in pre-independence India, that used to teach in English. Okay. It's a very old university, so I graduated from there. The current Infosys CEO, he's also from MS University. He was 3 years senior to me. Then I went to Larsen & Toubro. I worked there as a software engineer, right? At Larsen & Toubro office in Bombay for a while, and luckily I was part of the Y2K exercise, that futile exercise that we all embarked upon, because of which a lot of Indians were able to go abroad. I sort of got disillusioned by the whole Y2K stuff. I did get to work on a lot of mainframe systems, which would not have been possible if I was working on random TCS and Infosys stuff. Sorry if somebody is interested in going to Infosys and TCS. Not a big fan of Infosys, or the fact that Narayan Murthy changed India in a great way. Okay, to me, Infosys really made us code monkeys for the British. Okay, I see it that way, right? Because I see that Infosys has not brought on that revolution that other companies outside of India has done. It was the initial path. I understand we need to break even, we need to understand, we need to get sort of a say in the world market, but off late they have not done that. So when they had the opportunity, they just went with the money and not really changing the crowd. So initially I totally agree that to bring in a culture of software enterprise, I give that way to Narayan Murthy and team. But beyond that, they had a promise, they did not deliver on that. So that's the reason, that's nothing beyond that. Anyway, so I did a couple of years of code monkey business, and then I decided that I don't want to listen to some product manager sitting in UK an odd hour and decide what bug to fix. So I wrote a GRE, like all sane people would do, and I headed off to US to a not so great university, but the faculty was great, so I picked the faculty over the university. Again, a lesson for people, it is never if you're doing a PhD, it's never the university, it's always the faculty, right? So I did from somebody who is a fellow in AI. He did his PhD from Maryland, and from there I ended up in IBM Research, obviously. And 6 years IBM Research India. I did try to do all kinds of academics looking stuff, but what I found was we were doing a whole lot of blue sky things, right? Sitting in fancy labs, 50 people catered to pampered like anything, but nothing was happening on the ground. We were talking a whole bunch of stuff, going to fantastic conferences, flying to in a year, a couple of times to US, couple of times to UK, fancy travel, you go to Vienna, take nice selfies and stuff like that, but nothing was happening, right? So I got this opportunity with the CTO of EMC India. He said, look, we are studying something new, and we are trying to do something for changing the developing markets. Okay, so that's where I started this, and a lot of what I'm going to present today will try to look at things from that perspective, from an applied, how do you apply, how do you give back, how you do something technologically that impacts humans, right? It is not purely for the algorithmic side. I understand there is a need to the algorithms. I also do. Half of my time I spend doing algorithms, but the rest half I ensure that the algorithms are used, right? This goes back to my advisor who said, if you are not going to implement your ideas, nobody else will. Okay, and so I took a lot of time to actually do my PhD, 6 years, because I had to build a system to do the code part. But that is the fact. If you have a strong idea and you believe nobody else is putting money, nobody else is implementing it, then you're wrong. It's your idea. Nobody else knows that idea like you. So you should put your heart into it, your soul into it, and build it, right? So this is what I am trying to do. And one of the things I have found, I have traveled across India in the last 3 years, thanks to the opportunity I got at the EMC, and I have visited a lot of universities, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, no tier, everything. I have also looked at healthcare in the same space, right? And I have seen that there are many, many Indias, right? I would be not kidding if I said you are all very lucky to be sitting here, right? You represent less than 1% of India, okay? I will give you an example. I went to Bihar and to a village called Saharsa, which is about 8 hours from Patna, right? And the people there said we recharge our mobile phones once in 2 days. And I said, wow, why do you recharge? Are you calling so much? Then probed a bit more and they said, no, sir, we are not using the recharge for calling people. We are using recharge to charge the phone, the power for the phone. They go to a kiosk in the middle of the city. There is a guy who sits with a whole bunch of battery backup things. He has ports, and for 5 rupees, they recharge a basic Nokia phone. Okay, it is not the charge to call, it is the charge to have the phone working, right? And so Bihar as a market, most of Bihar as a market is for basic Nokia phones or the cheap knockoffs which are Chinese. So the reason I'm reading that is if you are building an app, a mobile app that is supposed to target the people in Bihar, and it is built on a smartphone, you already lost your demographic, because they are using Nokia phones that will last for 2 days, right? So the context also is that we were working in healthcare and we were trying to look at how to do the field workers use some technology. So we had to go back and figure out a Chinese company which creates Nokia equivalent phones. They call Nokia Asha phones, very simple phones, and build Java applications which ran on top of that, not your fancy Android or iOS, right? Because the demographic was that they were never going to buy a smartphone, and even if they bought a smartphone, they were never going to be able to charge it every 2 days. I mean, the smartphone would have been charged every day, and their demographic is that they want to charge it once in 2 to 3 days. Charge as in power, right? Not charge as in use. So it is important when you design for the demographic that you are going to target it, right? And hopefully through this talk, right, some of those points will come too. So I'd like to, you may not take away a whole lot, but I hope you will take away this thing. This is an interesting saying I like to sort of keep going back to, okay? So just take some time to read through it, okay? So what does it say? Doesn't matter whether you are a lion or a gazelle, right? Don't think of you as a victim in a situation. Think of the lion. If the lion doesn't outrun the gazelle, it is also dying. Okay, we have this mentality in India all over the place. Say our infrastructure is poor, we don't have funds, we don't have this thing. Doesn't matter. See, the guy in US is also running every day because he knows if he's not going to run, the guy in China is going to outrun him, right? The fact is, we need to start every day in the morning and say, I need to outrun the guy in China first and then the guy in US. Right? Just sitting here and trying, saying, I'm already outgunned, I'm outrun, I have poor infrastructure, I cannot solve the world's problems. Let me tell you, most of the guys when I was working in IBM, when I first came back, all the executives would come back and say, look, you have this fantastic thing called missed call. You know, the whole notion of a missed call, they did not figure it out. Missed call is something we usually do a missed call and say, okay, I reached, right? It's a Morse code, but they did not realize the Morse code was there in missed call. So it is a fantastic business model. People just use a mobile phone, they don't have any charge, they give a missed call and you know what is happening. You say, yeah, of course, you told your mother that you reach your friends, oh, give a missed call. What is so illogical about it? But that was so difficult for them to comprehend. They did not, a lot of the executives did not put that into their business equations, right? A lot of the companies, the Vodafone and the previous versions of Vodafone, they lost a lot of money because they assumed the moment you put bandwidth, you give a phone to everybody, people are going to start using it. The missed call doesn't cost you anything, right? And they cannot charge a missed call because ideally the other guy did not pick it up. So by law, you cannot charge. By technology, you can always charge for dialing anything, right? You can always charge. By law, they cannot charge, right? So they try to push this missed call is illegal. It didn't happen, right? So the fact is that kind of innovation, that kind of understanding will only happen when you're in India. Somebody sitting in US where missed call is actually seen as culturally sort of abusing the other person. It's kind of torturing the guy by giving a missed call. If I am important to you, you should take the time to call and spend money on me. Okay? In India, it's the other way around. We are saying, oh, that poor guy doesn't have money, let me just give him a call back, right? It is also a cultural equation. Okay? So sometimes when you build products, see the other reason I do not like people who come and tell me that, oh, I have this fantastic idea for building a product in US, great market in US. I said, did you go to US? Did you live in US? How do you know the guys in the US are going to buy it? Why don't you make a product for India, right? You understand your culture. There's a lot of product purchase happens by culture. You need to understand how people use that product, right? That is important to live and feel and breathe that culture. You see a lot of executives go to China and stay in China. It's because if you sit in the US and try to build something for China, you're not going to build it, right? You need to be in China to understand that culture. It's very alien culture. We also don't understand, right? So it's important that we start every single day with a motivation, with a sort of clear goal in our mind. It could be any small thing. You want to graduate, but have that goal in mind saying, if I don't run fast enough, somebody else is going to get the better grades from me. It could be 100 different things. I mean, obviously the lion also has to be faster than the gazelle, right? So a lion could also sit around and say, I'm a lion, the gazelle is not going to come into your mouth if you're a lion. So it doesn't matter what your equations are, everybody has a challenge. The moral of this is a very old saying from Africa, nobody knows the origins of it. Some African tribe uses it. But the fact is, right, everybody has challenges when they do this thing, okay? So it's important to figure out your strengths, your weakness, your ecosystem strength and weakness and try to build further, okay? So in this coming hour, I hope this is what you remember. And the rest is basically my theories, and my theories are not the greatest, right? Okay? So quickly, again, something a lot of people come to me and say, are you a data scientist? And I get very angry. So I said, no, I'm not a scientist. I'm just a researcher. So people tend to forcibly call me a scientist. So here is something people want to know. They come to say, how do you become a data scientist, right? And most talks people want to attend is to learn how quickly can I put data science on my resume, right? Don't worry, a lot of faculty want to teach data science in the course also. They come to me and say, can we create a course, right? So there is 3 steps. Okay, in 3 steps, tomorrow you can go out, put it on your resume. I'll tell you, you will listen to 50 different talks from the folks in Yahoo, folks in, not in Google, they don't talk about this, but IBM or even from EMC, right? A lot of people will come and say, sales guys will come and say, all these 3 steps is what data science is all about, okay? First is, get all the data that you want, collect everything. It makes sense for EMC. We sell storage boxes. Each box costs $20 million. If you keep every piece of data you have, who is making money? EMC is making money. Look, go and check out what EMC. EMC owns 33% of storage hardware that is sold in the world. It is the largest storage seller in the world, right? So we will put this kind of stuff. Store everything, right? Don't drop anything. How do you know? Maybe you know that the log file for access to Unix system 15 years from now, you want to know who accessed it, right? Next, this is the fantastic stuff that Yahoo guys will tell you. Anybody from Yahoo will come and say, do you know Hadoop? You don't know Hadoop, it's not big data. You have to start with Hadoop as a big data. Because Hadoop is made by them. If you don't use Hadoop, how will they have the salary at the end of the day? So every talk they will come and say, look, we can solve everything on the planet with Hadoop. Forget the matter that Hadoop was not even created by them. Google guys already cracked the code and then put paper outside and then they copied it. Doesn't matter, right? Look, we did the new thing. Counting we do with Hadoop now. Don't count with calculator, we do with Hadoop. So it's big data now, right? So put these things. Anybody asks you, you say, I will store everything you have. That is first thing the data scientist will say. Second, you say, I will get it, Hadoop system, 10 nodes, I need that. You're a data scientist. Finally, this is what you have to say. This is the most fantastic stuff. You know why I don't like this? I am primarily a database guy. Okay? I am a full-fledged relational database guy. I got my degree in that. So this is what people will tell you. If you are a data scientist, you have to do NoSQL. You don't know SQL, you don't know SQL, right? Just put on a resume, I don't know SQL. You're a data scientist. Okay? For 10 years, so when they started this whole Hive Hadoop thing, I said I'm not going to go and join the bandwagon, and slowly they have realized the whole people were jumping up and down. One other thing, the last year, the big job, the sexiest job of 2013 was data science, or data scientist. 2014, have you heard anybody saying we want to hire data scientists? Just came and went in a year, right? So there are new things today, new things I'll tell you. This is the new thing I'm going to tell you. But here is the truth, right? This is where we really went and asked the guys who decide who is a data scientist, right? This is KDD Nuggets. KDD is the premier body that looks at data science or sort of data mining in some sense. So this was a survey they sent out, not too many people, okay? Academia doesn't have millions of people. Smart people are only few, okay? So the few of you are sitting here, so look how small it is. There's not a million people in the streets on Tiananmen Square. That is for democracy, not for doing science, right? So 248, 78 words. Look, they said, I'm not even sure how many years it takes. 10% said, I'm not even sure how many years it takes for a beginner to become a data scientist. This is an important number. Look, 2 to 4 years, you start doing something. In 4 years of practice, you will sort of get to becoming a data scientist, right? You know what this means? This means that you have a PhD. That's all it means. 5 to 8 years means you've got a PhD. I mean, if you have a PhD, you can pretty much do anything. PhD is not about what theory you wrote. It's about that you can research for any other process that you want to do. That's what a PhD is. It is not that fundamental thing or you wrote a big algorithm for doing. That's not what it teaches. It teaches how you take a problem, break it down into pieces, find a solution for each of them, prove it into a large community, publish it, and say, okay, this works. That's what a PhD is about. Okay? It's not about, so if you ask a PhD professor or a faculty saying, what was your thesis about, doesn't matter. Thesis is one way to ensure that he knows what he has done. PhD is really the process of doing it. The end goal is to say, okay, how do I sort of rate you is like an exam. So thesis is like an exam to say, okay, he did all the pieces, right? So if you have a PhD, yeah, of course, you can be a data scientist, tomorrow you can call some rocket scientist also has a PhD, and you just need to figure out how to build a rocket. So that means, one, there is no real person who puts as a data scientist, there is nobody who came out from a university with a data science degree, right? This is not happens today. Maybe in 4 or 5 years, if you have a full-fledged program, somebody could say, I have an understanding of data science, right? Now let us see what it means to have an understanding of data science. This is what a data science is. Think about it. You have gone through 4 years of university program, or maybe more than that. Does any of our academic institutions provide you with all this? That tomorrow, if I started MS in data science, you will know all of these to become a data scientist. This is what industry wants in a data scientist. This is what they expect when you say, I have a data scientist who is looking at the problem, right? The more important things, right? These are all technology aspects. Like you need visualization, statistical pattern recognition, machine learning. This we understand. This is all technology, right? But what is more important is these. This cannot be taught in a university. Because a data scientist is going to sit in front of a CIO or a CTO or a CXO and say, look, this is what the data is. Here is where I want to invest money. Here is where I want to do something. This is the area you should not go into. That is why the whole idea is that you want to take the data that is coming out, find the results, and give it to business folks who can make actionable things out of that, right? You need to give them, you cannot tell them, look, I have a pattern, this is my trend line, 10% accuracy on the trend line. The guy will say, oh, I have no clue what your trend line is, because that's not what they do. So there is an understanding. You have what you see on your paper, because data will throw out a lot of things. You need to see which is the right one, which is the wrong one, which makes sense with my business strategy, which makes sense for my overall company strategy or product strategy or whatever is your strategy, right? University strategy, research strategy, and communicate that. So it's important. This outside layer is very, very important for a data scientist, and it is very, very important for anybody. You want to be successful and in business, in enterprise. This is a soft skill layer, which is very, very critical. You will be a fantastic programmer, fantastic analyst, but if the analysis that you create, you cannot communicate to the guy on the other side, they are going to say, I cannot work with this person. He doesn't tell me anything. He just sits there, talks. I have no clue what he's telling me, because the person on the other side doesn't understand these complexities, right? So today's talk, the reason I put it here, today's talk, think of me as the guy outside talking to you guys who are inside, right? So I will not focus on these. I'll focus on a lot of the peripheral stuff about spam, okay? So quickly to set the context setting, we are also in a very sort of data-driven world. Okay? The reason is somewhere here on the bottom left, 2011, sometime in 2011, we had 5 exabytes of data, which is from known history of man. So when we think of origin of man, till 2011, we had 5 exabytes of data globally, if you digitize every piece of data you had, right? From 2013, every 3 months, we are generating that much of data. Whether the data is good, useful, nobody is arguing about that, right? So we have completely changed the paradigm by which we create data, and obviously we have to consume it in that fashion. There are some interesting demographics I want you to look at. This one here, a teardrop, says 50% of 5-year-old children in the continental US have a smartphone. 5-year-olds with a smartphone, 50% of them have. Think of what happens when they become your potential consumer or potential boss or potential colleague 15 years down the line. Their expectation at the age of 5 is set by a smartphone or an iPhone or an iPad or whatever, right? You have to now start thinking about them as your potential consumer. They will come to universities in 10 years. You give them this kind of a gizmo, they will walk away from this room, right? They will not. My kids studies in a school which has a digital blackboard, where the teacher writes, takes a printout and sends to the parents, which is us, right? So she doesn't have a homework. And she is look at this and say, what, you're writing with pen and paper, right? It is not because she is downgrading us. There is the fact that she has not even encountered this. She's going to encounter new things going forward, right? She comes and says, Father, you connect this to our blackboard, it will display on that. So I didn't know that she will know that. But the teacher is using presentations on the blackboard and writing on the presentation. So I thought initially it was our paper thing which was writing and portraying. I said, no, I went to the class and she said, it's a digital blackboard where you have a whiteboard, it's a whiteboard, and you can present, so she presents and then writes on the whiteboard which she can erase. Right? So technology has come that far. Okay? Obviously not all schools there, my kid goes to the number 2 school in India or whatever, I don't know. But it's a private school, it's trying to push a lot of technology inside. The fact is, if some of those schools in India have it, potentially every school in the US has it, most of the schools in China will have it because all of the stuff is developed in China, but that is where we are going to compete. These are your future colleagues, future students, future consumers. This is the demographic. They don't want to use this thing, right? They are iPad, iPhone, mobile first generation, right? So mobile is here to stay. It is ubiquitous, it has become adopted by everyone, right? 5-year-olds are using it. So they will now decide and dictate how technology is growing. This is the demographic. This is the future that is going to decide and dictate, right? And other thing I want you to note is this piece here, right? It is talking about a new underground cable between London and New York. Okay? It shows the cable. Basically, this is the original cable, and the new cable is put on a different set of trenches. Costs, I guess it costs about a few $100 million to set it up. You know what it does? It reduces the lag by 5 milliseconds. If you send a byte of data on this new one, it reaches 5 milliseconds faster. Right? You do a big exercise and lay this whole cable under the sea just to save 5 milliseconds. So what does it mean? 5 milliseconds has becomes that much more important. Okay, don't waste time. Because this is the kind of demographic that is going to come. For them, every millisecond counts. Average attention span, when I went to do my graduate school, was about 15 seconds on the web. Today, it has come down to 7 seconds. It's not my saying. IBM has come out with a study just last week saying 7 seconds. If you can retain somebody on your page for 7 seconds, you have a customer. Right? So that is the attention. So ADD, attention deficiency syndrome, or ADS, is now the norm. People are so distracted by things that they don't want to look at a page for 7 seconds. If you're able to do that, you're already sort of become a sort of Jedi. Okay, you're able to stick around. There are a lot of other numbers which I don't want to go into in detail. Right? This is something that we should all worry about. Okay. This year, this is an old statistic. This is for last year. This year, beginning of this year, Chinese became the language of internet. Means there is more content in Chinese on the web than any other language put together. Okay? Can you find out a page in Hindi and Malayalam with ease if you search? You cannot. But this has become the language of the web. Which means we are in competition not with the West anymore, we are in competition with the East. They are slowly coming up from all over. Right? So this is important. You should also know that there are schools in China teach Hindi. How many schools in India teach Chinese? Mandarin Chinese. There are kids who can speak very fluent Hindi in China, in Shanghai. Because they, as such, understand the global market. They understand that their students will also come to India. Right? Because India is also potentially growing country. They need to compete everywhere. Right? US kids used to teach French and German as a foreign language. When I started my degree in US, I found a lot of people going to Chinese as a foreign language. And now that has become the norm. In higher schools, they have Chinese in US. Because they understand that a lot of executives go to China, that nobody comes to India, right? So, and English works in India. So obviously they don't need to learn, so English works here. But if you are in China, you come to teach Chinese, you're great difficulty, right? So these are important. See, what also it shows, forget about the fact that China is taking over and all that. The fact that we have not put enough content in our language on the web means a lot of our population is cut off from the knowledge they should have. Right? 1% of India or maybe 5% of India can read English. Right? 2% of the 5% can really understand properly what it is written and make sense of it. Right? The rest of them would need the content to be in the local language because that is best suited for them. They understand, they use it daily. If you don't have content in that language that they use, no point in putting broadband cables everywhere. Nobody is going to really use it. It is not about sending message on WhatsApp. That is not going to change how India is, right? So this is what happens in 60 seconds. Okay, WhatsApp messages can be built by anybody sitting in a small shanty in Cochin also. I guarantee you that. Okay, what cannot be done is take WhatsApp and make 500 million people adapt WhatsApp. This is not building WhatsApp that matters. It is actually productizing and running it, which is very hard to do in the ecosystem in India today. That's all there is. This is not our potential. Because a lot of people in US are from Indian origin, right? They are all trained from universities like this. CUSAT, I know a lot of my friends who have been CUSAT, they are all fantastic scientists in US. The fact is the ecosystem made them a scientist, right? This is the ecosystem that is missing here. This is not the skill, it is no different. An Indian is no different from a Chinese or a US guy. Everybody has the same brain. It is just how you tax your brain, right? So it is the ecosystem that is challenging. Look at what happens in 60 seconds. In the 1 minute that I just talked and sort of berated about India, what would happen? 600 new videos came on YouTube, right? New domains got registered, 70 new domains, and this is again last year's statistic. Things have increased much faster now, right? This is more important. 13,000 plus iPhone applications get downloaded. So apps, okay. The new study says that while the number of apps are increasing, the apps that really get downloaded are decreasing. So that people are not filtering out and saying there are only certain kinds of apps I really need. All the different types of apps that people put out, I don't really need. So there are certain kinds of apps. So the numbers of app download is increasing, but the category of apps that are getting downloaded is reducing. So people are not starting to look at that, right? So what is SMAC, right? So the context, this was all sort of context setting for this talk. SMAC is essentially four things: social media, or rather the ability to integrate and create products or experiences, rather I would call not products, I should call it as experience, and a seamless experience across social media, your mobile devices, because that is the first medium that people are going to engage going forward, right? So social media, mobile, a lot of analytics. You might see people put big data there, right? Big data by itself, a lot of data will not give you anything, right? So you really need to have the data and do analytics on top, and then the end consumer is not concerned about what kind of hardware you have stored your stuff on, right? They just want the experience. They want to have, they have a 7-second interest on any page or any app, right? 7 seconds. And the reason, the other reason, this study is also about talking about people on the websites, right? Why has it become 7 seconds? Because a lot of people have migrated to apps. So they don't, even the time it takes for a website or a browser to sort of load the site, that experience is so bothersome, people don't even go to the site. Like a lot of the websites have their equivalent app now today, right? And the app is always on. So the instant you turn it on, it is on, gives you very personalized information, whereas the website is very general. So that is also changing the reason why people don't tend to stay around on a site, right? So there is more to it than meets the eye. And so cloud has become very important. The fact being, as the spread of technology is reaching out to more and more lay person, nobody really wants to manage even a desktop in their home. Okay? They just say, okay, I want to just have an app. The app itself is running in Amazon Web Services, right? Most of the apps are in Amazon Web Services, right? Google apps are in Google Web Services, right? So I don't really manage the data, where it is getting stored, whether it is getting backed up. Whenever I go into my Gmail, my mail is always there. And always my mailbox is increasing in size. I don't know how it is increasing. I don't really care. Right? All I care is my friend sent an email and I'm getting it. Or my friend sent a photograph, I'm getting it, and I can seamlessly click on it, it opens up in my window, and very nice. Right? I don't have to have another application, copy it here, open it there, all integrated. As a lay user who doesn't understand technology, this is a great experience. Right? Google broke the code very early. They understood mail, give it free, give all the apps around the mail, people are going to use it. Right? They don't really want to buy a computer. That's for, obviously, if you are an engineer, you want to do that, right? But as an engineer, you also want to understand that your customer doesn't want to do that. So there are two parts to it. An engineer needs the computing on his desktop or on his office or in his data center so that he can do the best things. But his customer should not be having to do that. So there is another reason not to work for Windows. Okay? They still believe everybody wants to buy Windows, right? So if you're, a lot of my friends work in Windows, okay? So that pitch I give them to get them to EMC. EMC is also going to sort of a challenge, because EMC used to sell boxes to every CIO and their brother, right? Now all the CIOs are saying, oh, I don't want, Amazon buys all the stuff, I just buy it from Amazon, right? So EMC is also figuring out how to sell more boxes. So it's a challenge for us also. That's why we are trying to understand how to fit it in. This is more of SMAC, going into details of SMAC, right? What is happening on the social media in general? See, 13% of the traffic on internet today comes from apps. Okay, 13% of the apps 30% of traffic is from the apps. Okay, let's just quickly, in the interest of time, I'll just quickly go forward. You will hear this term also more often, called the third platform. Okay, the third platform is simply Capgemini EMC spin on SMAC. Okay, essentially it just means that you're using mobile cloud data, and this is where all your applications, all your consumer base is coming from, right? What is the first platform? First platform was this mini and mainframe, thousands of applications, very, very mainframe centric, and users who primarily had access to the mainframes, right? Millions of people, so a lot of data administrators, database creators, application writers, and all that. Second platform is our client server era, right? When the Windows came in, you had PCs, and you have tens of thousands of applications, and a lot more people, because end users started getting to their laptops, right? The third platform essentially means billions of users, everybody has a phone, right? In India, almost everybody has a phone, so it really changes the paradigm there, okay? And apps are also in millions. If you go to an app store, any of the app stores, they have millions and millions of apps today, right? It doesn't matter whether the app itself is doing something fancy, but there is an application. So application has become now equivalent to a web page that you have, right? This is simply a web page or that thing. But the fact is, it is in everybody's hands. This is more important. The scale has changed. The scale of interaction has changed. Okay, so this is the social media for you. Okay, so if I made fun of WhatsApp, this is how people look at social media. What will you get from social media, right? So if you are somebody who has this burger you want to describe, if you are on Facebook, you will just say, I like my burger, right? That's what happens on social media. If you're on Twitter, you just, because Twitter is all about life, so while eating, you will say, oh, I'm eating a Big Mac, right? Now, if you're LinkedIn, where you want to find a job, you'll say, oh, I can make a Big Mac, right? That's what it is, okay? YouTube, you will take a video of how you do a Big Mac. You'll be surprised there are videos of how to open an iPhone box, okay? Instagram, again, a picture, blog, you'll write the whole details, Pinterest, Foursquare, is basically you'll call your friends to come and eat the Big Mac, right? So, this is a complete spectrum of interactions you can do in social media. So social media is not one single thing about talking to people. Social media allows you to do a whole lot of things. I will use this. This is a classic example somebody else has built and I just copied it on how the same thing can be viewed in many different ways using social media, how you picturize it, right? So when you're trying to consume social media, you have to understand who is your end customer and what is the purpose for which you want to use the social media. It is not, social media is really not just an interaction or a community coming together. There are a lot of different reasons people are on social media. That is the whole spectrum I gave. People have different reasons to be on social media and describe different things on the media, right? So when you are looking at it, you will only get different views. If you are on LinkedIn looking at Big Mac, you will get somebody who creates Big Mac, but not how Big Mac tastes, right? So you need to understand, if you want to figure out how Big Mac tastes, which is the burger, then you have to look at somebody who has blogged about the Big Mac saying this is the taste, this is how he created. But on LinkedIn, you will only find somebody who can create a Big Mac. So it is important that you pick and choose your audience and your source of data even on social media, right? So this is typically how social media is used. I mean, you will keep hearing as you go to and talk to enterprise, everybody and the brother wants to integrate social media into their system, right? Most of the time, these are the big chunks. This is brand awareness. You just put it on all the Facebooks and Twitter and all that, everybody will come to know your company. Beyond that, there is no ROI, okay? Because you cannot count whether the person knows this company or not. You just assume, you just bombard with advertisements every time you go to Gmail, you will figure out eventually EMC is a company, right? But is there a real value from it? No. Networking, a lot of people use it, but it's internal for an end user. Nothing a company can do from it, nothing an enterprise can do from it. I, as a user, can connect to a lot more people using social media. That I can connect and keep connected to my friends, long lost classmates, new potential peers, do some brand marketing, personal marketing, stuff like that. 20% is little bit of driving traffic to business. Like if you put a link on your Gmail or your Facebook saying here is a Flipkart sale, somebody might come from there, right? So there's still redirection. So social media, the things that people really want is this feedback is very minimal, 9 to 10%, right? There are companies like Myntra, Jabong, which actually use a Facebook page as a customer service page, right? Go to Facebook, you enter a complaint on the Facebook page, there's a person sitting there who will immediately respond to that. They don't use a traditional phone as a mechanism, right? Because they wanted that experience, they wanted the app experience, and they did not want to build a customer service portal, they use the Facebook pages to do that. So a lot of companies are not doing that, okay? So this is your social media landscape. Okay, it is not easy. It is not really not easy if you say I want to work on social media. You need to really pick and choose what you want to do. Gaming, for some reason we don't really look at it. Gaming is also social media. If you look at the notion of people coming together to do a common activity, gaming, multiplayer games, right? A lot of multiplayer games, a lot of community games like Zynga has a lot of games. What is that? Farmville or something that if you are on Facebook, you'll get this Farmville stuff, right? And Zynga makes a lot of money with Farmville. So the money-making enterprise, right? Candy Crush, I don't know how many people play Candy Crush, right? Candy Crush used to make a lot of money. So casual games, all those are in place. How many, can you identify from this how many Facebook or Twitter kind of things you are part of? Are anybody willing to say 1, 2, 3? Can you find your things? These are all the current top domains that people use across the world, right? And some of them have already died, like Orkut is no more working. Google took it out, Okay, Orkut is no more there. Probably mostly was used in India and they took it up, right? So I can see YouTube, Flickr, Facebook, LinkedIn is somewhere there in networking, but a whole bunch of stuff like Tumblr, Wiki, microblog, right? A whole bunch of stuff is there where people are exchanging ideas and interacting, right? And now the question is, if we want to extract information from this, we need to first understand this, right? There's very complex things happening, and new blogs and new pages are coming. I'll show you in a minute there, right? If I go back. Here, 1500 plus blog posts, 60 new blogs every second, right? And this is your social media, part of your social media, right? Here, how many status updates are happening? Look, close to 500,000 status updates on Facebook in every minute, right? If you want to understand what people are thinking, and I will come to that quickly, you need to understand the rate at which things are happening on this thing. So that is more important, okay? So let's quickly look from here. So essentially what I was trying to portray is that when you talk about social media, the big data becomes inherent, right? Because of the third platform angle, where billions of people are now using thousands of applications to start talking to each other and creating data. At the end of the day, when you send a message or take a photograph and send it to your friend, it is data. And then the systems are seeing that as data, right? And how do you crunch that data? So big data has all these three typically flavors to it, right? If you're talking about big data and you don't understand, your data systems don't have all those three together, then it's really not a big data system. You don't really need a big data system, right? All these three together make it much more complex than any two together. Any two together we can usually use existing technology to handle them because they were trained to do that. When all three together comes in, right, that becomes more important. And especially from the variety perspective, unstructured data, this is your Twitter and Facebook and all those data updates are all text. 80% to 90% of data that you generate today is all text. So unstructured data understanding becomes that much more clear. Okay, so what does modern big data want to do? I know somebody from the audience would be very happy. The company is listed here, right? They want to see more completely. What people want to do when they look at social media is to understand. Ultimately, enterprises are here to make money. Nobody is here to change the world. Let me tell you that very frankly. Okay, don't listen to anybody who comes and says that even Bill Gates has given so much money out after he made so much money, right? He didn't start giving out for free. So every company here, even the non-profit, non-government ones are for profit, right? Because that's how they pay salary. So if you are a business, if you are an incorporated trust, whatever you call it, everybody is end of the game. Gives 1 rupee to take 2 rupees, right? Everybody wants to make money. So what they want to see is to understand more completely the end customer. For big companies, it might be a big company, right? For mom and pop stores, it is the actual retail customer. But you want to understand your customer, right? And to understand where is my next purchase coming from, right? Jet Airways to club the Jet Airways came and said their demographic, typical demographic. If you have flown into Jet Airways, you'll see most people are like me, 35 to 40. Okay, I'll not tell the age. But traditionally, what has become is that Jet Airways has replaced Indian Airlines or Air India for that matter. So all senior and rich people go on that. And they came and said, we want to have the young people fly with us. You know, the young people go on Indigo. Okay, so it's their competitor. It has nothing to do with the love of the young people for Jet Airways. Just meant that our demographic goes on Indigo because there's a peppy, young people are there. They don't care about, it's a no-frills airline. They go on time, they're cheap. They don't give food and all that, but they don't care. The young guys all want to go on Indigo. They want to see young people are flight attendants. How do we change this, right? They came and said, we have this jet privilege thing. And I said, look, jet privilege is also by 35, 40-year-old people. What are you going to figure out about me and try to get new young people? Young people are not on these websites that Jet Airways is running, right? If you don't even have the demographic, it doesn't matter if you club your social media, loyalty program, everything and try to understand the customer. Your customer is not even on any of your website or not interacting with you at all. So you need to do a new business model to even get the new customer to come in, right? So you cannot use social media to understand a customer who doesn't exist. You can only use social media if your customer is on the social media. So the big challenge is deciding that your customer is the guy on the social media who says, I am the great scientist is actually Ullas Nambiar who works at EMC. That is the biggest problem even today, right? So the way to circumvent that is you allow customers to log into your site through Facebook login. So you say login through Facebook, login to Google, and single sign-on. So that way you know you connect it. If you don't, people don't use. I don't use that because when I use that, they know who I am, right? So if you have an opportunity, don't use your Facebook login to sign on somewhere else. What essentially they are doing is they will tell Facebook to give you your data because you have allowed Facebook to log into that site. Because with that, they will tell you what exactly you are, who you are, right? That is what's happening. Now, you want to also do more closely, just want to get data. As I said, you get a whole bunch of data, you cannot analyze and get anything out of it. So that is where Target is a great example. If I have to explain that, you have to go into context of US markets. But Target is, you can think of as a competitor to Walmart, right? And Target, you cannot outgun Walmart in US. So you have to be smarter than Walmart. And they figured out what Walmart stores in US are the same, irrespective of which county you go, which state you go. They all look the same. You go turn left, there is kids aisle, you turn right, there is clothes. Okay, that is how they sold the model, right? It is easy to train the people, you can train people around, you can move things around. The stores are known to everyone. So you can have a manager go from the south of US to the north and he will still be able to run the place, right? But Target could not compete in that because Walmart prices are very low. So what Target did, it looked at its own customer profile for each store, looked at what my customer profile is, who will stay around my store, and they changed the store to fit the customer profile. So if you're in Beverly Hills in a Target, you will have chandeliers hanging in the Target. It will look like it's like a luxury showroom, right? But you go to a place where I stay, where university students hang out, it will be bare bones Target, maybe the light will not even work, right? Because that is the customer profile. We are buying very small ticket sizes, right? So that is where they use their model. They understand that, and then say what kinds of things they'll buy. One is the look and feel of the store. Other thing is what is it that you're going to buy in the store, right? I don't have to stock everything if you're not going to buy it, okay? So this is why people are interested. This is the sort of projection till 2017 of the big data market, right? Storage, don't think you're interested. This is what probably should be more interesting to you. If you're looking at big data, okay, then it is not Hadoop. So it is just make fun just for the sake of it, okay? If you're looking at big data, a whole bunch of stuff comes into the space of big data, okay? So this is clearly important. So don't write NoSQL for the sake of NoSQL to get. You can write NoSQL so that LinkedIn somebody will look at it, but you should still write these because a lot of your mission critical systems still run on those. Nothing runs on your Hive and HBase and all that. Okay, this is all nice reports run on it, but all interesting stuff runs on this. Okay, so these companies you should definitely know. Okay, these guys are going to be here for a long, long time. Okay, Amazon and Windows Azure. Some of these maybe as you go forward. So this is interesting. This is sort of a migration from the second generation, where these were companies were already there looking business intelligence, right? We're looking at large. So usually they would just take data from here and analyze your systems. Now they have tried to take these same setups and bring in unstructured data, which is pretty much big data, right? So structured data is very 20% or 10% of even enterprise. So when these systems are trying to move over, what they are doing is they are bringing in Hadoop and all the big data platforms and gelling them together. Okay, but as I said, there is more to big data than you understand. There is also this new piece here called data as a service, where you can just get the data out of it right away. Okay. So to just go into a little bit of technology, if you are looking at terabytes of data, okay, this is where you are playing. If you are looking at big data, the megabytes don't really matter or gigabytes don't matter, right? You have to start with terabytes, otherwise it's not big data anymore, right? You'll be surprised your smartphones are as powerful or even more powerful than some of the basic laptops you can get in the market today, okay? So and they will grow, their storage will grow. It's just kind of a market gimmick that they play that you can get only 64 bytes or gigabytes in storage. Nothing to do with the cost. Okay, so if you're looking at, this is again still terabytes of data, Netezza, Teradata, Greenplum is actually EMC. Okay, then big data analytics is SPSS, SAS, MATLAB, Mahout. But if you really want to go deep inside, which is where interesting stuff happens, you can see open space, right? Open space. These are just concepts. There are no companies, there are no products. And that will come when you start looking at zettabytes. And that is not very far away. Exabytes and zettabytes are going to happen pretty soon, right? This will happen in another 5 years. But this is open space. This is space people have already covered. So if you're looking at big data and you want to do new companies, this is the space to go. Okay? And what are the types of analytics you will do? So let's just make it very simple. There are only 3 types of analytics typically that you do. Okay? Counting, correlating, and research. It's very basic. Okay? And every product, every company, every data scientist who says I am a data scientist is only doing one of these 3 things. Okay? Now I'll give you these examples. And counting is very simple. How many people like the photo I put? Okay, as the moment you upload something saying, okay, I'm here in ICDSE and I'm listening to this crazy guy waving his hands around here and it's a selfie of mine. After 5 minutes, you want to go and see how many friends looked at it. Right? You want to do it within 5 minutes. Right? If I do it 2 days later, would you be happy? No. So that is why you need that. How many people? Because all your friends are distributed. They just like your stuff somewhere, right? I want to show it fast, right? So that even in LinkedIn and Twitter, if you are really observing those systems, you should see certain things happen very, very fast, right? But certain things like you added some friend, that doesn't show up to your friends like a week or so later. They will not know that you have friended somebody else because that's not important to you. What is important to you is what you share. Your updates are important. Your friends' updates are important. The new friend your friend has made is not important, right? So I don't care if I show this guy has become a friend. So in LinkedIn they show who else has become a friend of whom, right? It shows up very, very late, right? But the moment you update something, it will show immediately in 2 seconds. So there are different systems who are just sitting behind. One is the updates is on a very light, Kafka is the system, but the rest of them is traditional warehouse which runs its own pace. End of the day, it will update stuff, right? So what is correlating? Correlation simply here is what devices are failing at the same time. Okay? If I'm in the market, right? What features? If I have released a new product, so this is something that people might be interested in. Amazon does this, and a lot of other companies, Groupon and all do something called A/B testing. Right? So A/B testing just means that you have a website or a web page or a portal, and you pick a certain class of customers and say, these guys will get my newest, latest portal, right? A, product A. B is the original portal, okay, or a slightly variant of the A, and you give it to the other set of groups. And then you start analyzing. This is what data scientists all over the Mountain View area are doing. So Amazon puts out a new site, Groupon will put out a new way of giving you coupons, and then these guys will do this analysis saying how many people clicked on it, is it on the left is better, on the right is better, or down here is better, is it connected is better. How do I know? My student, my intern is a data scientist at Groupon. So I asked him what you do, and he said this is what we do, A/B testing, right? And it is intense, it is not easy, because you have to work with the product team, they will release something. The moment they do, it is also known as telemetry. This is a science called telemetry. Essentially, you have to put more code into the code to measure how long you have waited on a certain page. It's not easy, it is a science there. To understand, okay, you are interested in this page, how do I measure the interest of a person, right? It is no more computer science. It also transcends how do you devise user activity patterns, a lot of things come into human-computer interaction is one angle of it, but there's a lot more to it, right? If I went to a page and came back, does it mean I'm interested in this page? Or I just go down that page and I came back? How do you count these things, right? So PageRank, if you have looked at PageRank, it assumes that people just randomly jump from page to page. The inside news is Google doesn't use PageRank anymore. Okay, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. PageRank is the one they publish. They don't really rely on PageRank anymore to do this kind of stuff because it doesn't really work. Okay, PageRank doesn't really work. It's just still authorities and hubs, it gives popularity on the top. Okay. So, and research is a little bit more tricky. Research is not really straightforward, just like every research. So this is sentiment analysis. There's something like, is Obama popular? If you look at a bunch of data from a piece of time and you want to realize that is Obama popular, then you have to spend a lot of time to figure out. So you have to understand who is Obama, who is popular. System doesn't understand who is Obama and what popular means. You and I understand Obama and popular, right? System will not understand. So to do this, you need to first explain what Obama really stands for and how many varieties I can call Obama as Obama. Obama, many places can be said, the president did something like this. And I am very happy with the president. Does that mean he's referring to Obama or is referring to like our president here, right? Who knows, right? So it's very hard to nail down sentiment. And also, I have heard that sentiment is not actionable. What is the good point of saying Obama is happy? Yeah, president is very happy that, okay, a lot of people are happy with me. But as a consumer, as a company, what do you get by saying this happened? It's not very actionable insight, right? And this has come from the Modi campaign. So there was a Modi campaign guy who was coming and giving a talk, and they said, we sent out all these things and we figured out people were very happy with Modi, but we didn't know whether it will result into votes. So happiness or sadness or anger is not an actionable insight when it comes to asking your vote. Okay, so there is also certain kinds of times you have to understand that when you're trying in a democracy, your happiness with the leader doesn't mean you're going to vote for that leader. Because you're happy with Modi doesn't mean you're happy with a local MLA, right? So it's not easy. So you have to understand how you look at the analysis, right? Okay. So most important is, and this is not just in science, in life itself, timing is everything. If you're at the right place at the right time, you can be the king, right? So here, the first part is event-driven, right? You have event-driven stream processing. The tweets are an event-driven stream processing model. If you want to really figure out how many people tweeted about this event, you need to look at every event. At every tweet, you have to look through it, right? Some of it may be ad hoc query, right? It's ad hoc in the sense, there's a kind of query which says how many people who are sitting here also came from CUSAT, who did a degree in CUSAT. It's kind of ad hoc query. You really cannot anticipate this. So it'll take some more time for it. You need a lot more data, right? And this could be long-term batch jobs, which are essentially how many people sitting here went to CUSAT and plan to actually go out for dinner and then they'll eat on non-veg. It's a long-term job, which is cannot be given back in a few minutes, right? It really needs a lot more data. You need to grasp, you need to maybe survey a few people to collect the data. You don't know who is going to go out and eat non-veg today. So that data is even missing. So there are different kinds of timelines in terms of what you can achieve and what you cannot achieve in terms of analysis itself, right? And so that also becomes a challenge in delivering these solutions. So here is quickly putting my money on where I was talking about. Here is analysis of what people think about health, okay, their health or their exercise. What is their sentiment towards exercise, which was done sometime last year as part of a project I'll talk about later. Okay, during the people who are in US will know this is a long weekend in US. It's a traditional long weekend. Okay, so this is sentiment. This is Monday and goes over to the next Monday. Okay, and see the sentiment is sort of peaking on Thursday and Friday and Saturday, saying everybody thinks exercise is good. So it's basically the question is asked: are you positive about exercise? What do you think about exercise? And people say, I don't want to do exercise, right? So in the beginning is almost clustered here, there is no difference. But as the week goes on, right, people now want to go back to the gym and do exercise and feel. Reason they do that is in the beginning of the month, week, right, Saturday, Sunday has come by. So they were at home, they ate very good, probably they went to gym. So do you need to exercise? If you ask on Monday, do you need exercise, are you fit? Say, yeah, I'm fit, because I did it yesterday, right? But as the week goes on, you have long working hours, you ate junk food in your cafeteria. The Thursday, Friday, when you ask the same question, do you think you're fit? People start suddenly thinking, no, I don't think I'm fit. I eat a whole lot of junk, I eat a lot of calories, I need to really exercise, I'm not very fit, right? So that is what is showing up here, okay? What does it say to the broadcasters? You know, when all this fitness things come, it comes on a Sunday night, saying you take this drink, you'll become slim, or the sauna fit or something like that comes, right? Comes on Sunday nights because they have no programs to run, right? Usually, ideally, if they want more sales, they should do that kind of a targeted advertisement on Wednesdays and Thursdays. That is when people believe they want to do exercise. On Saturday, Sunday, in the morning, they went to the gym, they did exercise, they don't say they are unfit, right? They are unlikely to buy this stuff. So there is a reason for this kind of a study. You can use the study. So this was more to look at when people thought they are healthy and not healthy in a week. But if you look at a longer pattern, this is not, it's going to repeat every week. Every Thursday, Friday, people are going to feel they are unhealthy. Then Saturday, Sunday, they will go to the gym and do a lot of exercise, run 5 miles, do weightlifting and all. And Monday again, they will go and eat all the junk, right? So if you want to sell something, Wednesday, Thursday is the right time, right? And again, it does not work for every demographic. People in Europe felt they were anyway very fit, right? So there, it is not going to work there. It is only in US that works. Europeans generally are more fitter than people in the US. Okay, they have more healthier eating habits. Okay. So how to do this? So this, just trying to close quickly. Sorry, I planned for an hour. I think I'm going for that. quickly we'll look at all this needs for you to have scale. Okay, and where does the C part of SMAC come into play? This is where it comes into play, right? So if you want to do things faster, cheaper, and optimal, these are three keywords if you want to do some. Why do you go on the cloud? Not because, see, the primary reason people will say, I don't want to have any resource looking at my 3 boxes, so I'll give it to Amazon, they will let me maintain, I can fire these 3 people and save my money, right? That is a short-term agenda. You want to reduce the cost on your balance sheet. Long-term is, definitely, one of those things is OPEX versus CAPEX, right? OPEX means operational cost. Capital expense means if you are investing in buying 10 boxes, setting up a data center, buying the administrative staff, initially you have to put a lot of money. Whereas if you are going on the cloud and provisioning through VMs, I guess for a few dollars, I mean for students it's free anyway. So you'll get it for very free. You don't have to spend any money because Amazon spent all the money. You're only paying for using that service, right? So cloud essentially means your compute becomes like your electricity, which you just turn on and turn off when you want, or your water supply, right? So ideally compute should become like that. If you want compute, you plug it in, you compute. When you are done, you pay the bill, right? That is essentially where the cloud is going to take it to. Whenever you want, you compute, and you don't want, you don't do it, right? But the rest, and this is how, if you are interested in the technology, what really happens is you have the same box. Take one box, you can try it out on your laptop also, you don't need to buy a box. You have the same box, this is what your box has, whatever it is. You put a hypervisor, which is actually an OS on top of OS. Hypervisor is a OS which sits on top of whatever your OS is, right? And then you can mimic this box multiple number of times, right? On each box, you can run a different OS, whatever you want, right? That's what pretty much virtualization, this is virtualization 101. If anybody asks what virtualization is, this is what it is doing. This is actually taking one computing device and making it look like 10 computing devices, 10 virtual devices. Exactly, it doesn't have the exact same in power because obviously you're distributing the power, but you can try to make it look like that, right? But what does it mean when you have scalability, right? When you scale things around, when you're trying to distribute, when you scale to distribute things, right? You want to have consistency. When you do things here, when you update on using a mobile device, you go back to your Facebook page on your web page. If you have updated a photo through your mobile app, it should show up in your Facebook web page also, right? So it should be available in both the sites, right? So that is strong consistency. So if I log into my Facebook page on my website and I have also an app on my mobile, it should not be disconnected because it's the same person, right? So that is consistency. It should be consistent across disparate places. It should be available at all the time. Right? High availability is important. When you distribute things, you cannot take for 4 hours down, not like our IRCTC website, which goes on all the time. So we are doing maintenance, right? It has to be available all the time, not 9 to 5, right? And partition tolerance, this is key. Okay, there's a little bit more. This is an interesting theorem if you're in distributed computing or interested in big data analysis. You should understand CAP theorem, right? This is basically is by Brewer. It says consistency, availability, and partition are actually 3 vertices on a triangle. They are orthogonal to each other, right? No system that you build, that are attempts to build some, can have all 3 together. You have to give up one of them, right? You have to give up one of them to achieve the rest. Okay? So, where would Hadoop fall in, right? Hadoop would fall here. This is where Hadoop falls in, right? Availability, I mean the consistency might be an issue, but you don't really care because you're only looking at one piece. So consistency is not something that it will replicate after some time. To do a replica if you're running a replica. If you don't have a replica, you're not really partitioning. Because the way Hadoop works is it does data partitions. It assumes that there are silos in your database on your data so that you can put one data piece here and one data piece there and they don't really talk to each other. So where Hadoop really fails is when you have database 1 and database 2 and you cannot really pull them out and use them separately. Okay? So if there are dependencies within your data, then you cannot really use Hadoop because it will start failing because it will do too many message passing between nodes and the distribution will not work. So ideally for Hadoop, so Hadoop is good for counting. You know why? If I were to tell all the people here to count and all the people here to count and sum up the number will be the same. There is no change, right? If I were to do an average, say how many average people are sitting on each row. Somebody counts from here, somebody counts from here, and I do an average of that, it will be wrong. Okay, Hadoop cannot work for the average. Okay, average of averages is not the average of the whole. Okay, so that is a simple example. So distributed computing is good when the data is not dependent. So if it's dependent data, then distributed computing is not good. It counts because sum of sums is the sum. Okay, sum of parts is the whole in counting, but not the same in average. Okay, so that's where it doesn't really scale. So this is what typically the diagram, if you're interested in, just not the word of Hadoop, but what Hadoop does. Essentially, this is what is called as map reduce. You take a bunch of key value pairs, okay, names, the first name, last name, that's it. So, or first an ID and a last name. So if you're a social security ID or Aadhaar ID and your name, that's your key and value pair. So you want to map it to each, and then you have a set of merge functions. You say for the same key, how many times you're occurring. So say I want to count how many times Kusat came in all my tweets. So my key would be Kusat, right? And I will just count how many times key appears. So the value would be 1. This will be 1, or tick mark, yes, right? And then eventually I count and come back and say, in my reducer here, it will come back and it will sort of covered 50 times. That's what it does, right? This is a very simplification of that, but that is what is happening, right? And the challenge with Hadoop essentially is that if you have a reduce function here, this is actually a function, there are many map functions, this will wait till all the map functions are closed. So it is not really parallel. It will wait for all the maps to look through its stream and say, is there a Kusat coming or not? Even if you know that, okay, that is not even looking at Kusat because it is looking at tweets in Bulgaria or something, nobody was going to tweet there, still wait for it. So there are some inherent flaws in that, but ideally, because of the scale and it runs on large numbers, you don't really see those. But it doesn't, those are some challenges that have not logged. Okay? So if you want to have reference architecture or big data analysis, this is how it looks like. Okay? You will have data streams. You need somebody, you cannot have, this person is important, that is your data scientist or analyst. Okay? You can have this bunch of stuff running here, you do your analytics, correlation, and you create output for your customer. And then you will feed back the same thing to this guy. And you keep continuing the loop. Right? And how do you build that? If you are interested in building that, a lot of the stuff is available open source. So this green stuff is Apache. Okay? And these are the pieces that typically people use. HDFS is the file system on Hadoop. Scoop, Flume. Flume is for ingesting your data. Peak, HBase is a database that comes here. You have Mahout, MapReduce, all that stuff which is available online. So, and free. The keyword being free. So if you want tomorrow to start on doing big data analytics, these are available to you right away, right? Then you can add these pieces. Virtualization, again, you can pick your OpenStack versions of it, which is free, and you can start virtualizing. A whole bunch of stuff, which for certain kinds of users would be free if you went to the Pivotal website and looked at it. And on top, there are a whole bunch of other things you can do. I will not go into details of that, okay? So, this is the interesting part. Since we spoke about all the bunch of stuff that we should be doing or technology is allowing you to do, how is it being used? When you go home or when you go to your university dorm or something, go and look at this project called Human Face of Big Data. Okay? It's an interesting book. It's a 1,000-page coffee book created over a year. Okay? And it looks at how technology has impacted the globe. Okay? So this includes putting cameras on a dolphin and looking at the ocean and stuff like that. Okay? I'll just share some of the stuff that people have done. Okay? So this is one of those images in that book. You know, this image is actually made from 1,400 separate photographs. This is a time-lapse video of the most famous square in the world, Times Square. Okay? The time-lapse video is okay. This is evening time. This is evening time. This is mid-morning, how it looks. And that is like afternoon, how it looks. What is it telling you? In the same image, it is telling you how do you do crowd control on Times Square. Don't look at the photo as photo. It is, this is your command center where you're managing people. If this is a police command center, if you can create this image, this is created over 3 months. Okay, it's not easy. This guy took 1,400 photographs, put it together over 3 months of time. How can a system build it and show people what do you expect? If this is my morning, can I predict how my afternoon is going to be like? Because I have the data from the past. This is how it will look like, right? Now, can I count how many people are standing on the street and say this is the number of footfalls I will expect? This is the number of cars I expect on my road. You can count that, right? But that is where prediction is, right? So this is just showing what you can do, but this is done by a human being. Okay, it is not done by computers today. So for the computers to do, a lot more has to happen. But this is the potential that we have. If you have the idea, we can always do it. But this is the idea. This is the kind of stuff you want to do, right? This is again going to automated traffic control or cloud management in some sense. If you can look at your past and say how my place looks like, because everybody is having a camera nowadays, right? Look at and say what do I estimate how people are going to be. Is Mondays, if it's Monday and Monday afternoon looks like this, Monday evening looks like this. So can I predict that and stop people accordingly, do something like that. This is more interesting, right? This lady, Yasmin Delavery Johnson, she's pregnant and what did she spit into a cup? Okay, this got 24andMe, started by Google, and they came out and told her all kinds of things she can expect. She has done a crystal ball grazing. Okay, she even they have even told that the baby is going to be 2 ounces less than normal. That is an expectation. It's not predictions are always expectations, right? But what it just told her is what kinds of diseases she can expect based on her DNA profile. Of course, this was done in a much funded lab for one person over a long period of time. But what stops you and I from having that information the moment our kids are born, right? If you have that information, so she has 28% chance of developing coronary heart disease. If she knew that from, let's say she knows it from now, what can she do to not have coronary heart disease? She changes her lifestyle. Right? She has 5% chance of getting lung cancer. Doesn't mean that she starts smoking from tomorrow, but just that she doesn't have a chance, right? And average odds of developing thyroid cancer. So she can pick and choose. Even as a doctor, if this lady were to go to the doctor's clinic and this profile is there, the moment he sees a symptom, he knows which flags are to be rolled up and which flags are not to be rolled up. The likelihood of these kinds of stuff is higher, those are lower, right? She has 10% chance of getting breast cancer, one of the largest killers of women, right? So she is okay with that. And if she has less chance, her baby has less chance, right? So these are important things. This is something that science can do, more than WhatsApp, right? So I really don't like WhatsApp as a social media example. And the fact that people come and say, look, India has taken over WhatsApp. This is where we want to go. You know the reason why? We have 99% of our population who doesn't have healthcare, right? And the fact is we cannot, as a country, we have failed. We will not be able to cover universal healthcare. We are not able to do it, right? So if somebody gets born in a hospital, we have to do this analysis, very cheap, and come back and say, this guy is going to have congenital heart disease. Put him in that category. Some flag goes up, we can treat that person. But generally, when the guy shows up at the hospital, it is much harder to get, right? Prevention is better than cure. If we can prevent that from happening, it's much more easier because there is less burden to the guy, right? But how will that happen? So if you thought smart things only happen when white people are in the photograph, forget about it. This is our own guy, this is University of Washington, a good friend, who was having, obviously from India, so he was worried about this electricity bill, okay? So he was looking at his electricity bill and saying, oh, my bill is very high compared to my neighbor, right? So one day when his family had gone on a vacation, he switched everything off. And then he came back in the evening, still his meter was up. So he said, come on, I switched everything off, but still meter is going, what is going on? So he created a device called Electric Sense, attach it on your meter, on the outbox, and it creates a profile. Basically every device, every electrical device that you use has an electrical signature, okay? The way it consumes, it turns on and turns off, that is called a signature, right? If you have a washing machine, the motor, the twisting is actually a machine turning off and on. So if you look at the graph that you draw, the input graph, it's a certain sinusoid, turns on, turns off, turns on, turn off. So there is a washing machine, right? A refrigerator has a long cycle of turning off and turning on, right? So with that, he figured out it is his nanny cam, which he has put in all the cameras to look at how his nanny is treating his kids, which was on 24/7. The kids have gone home, but he forgot to turn on his nanny cam. So because the kids are not there, why does he need a nanny cam? He just turn it off. But the fact is, with that, he not only does that, this device will just attach to tell you who is consuming what, at what time, when, how much, and then you can connect that to your provider's slabs. So providers in the US have a slab saying peak hours, off-peak hours. So if you can decide based on this that you usually are washing clothes during the peak hour, it is something that you can change your behavior and change your bill, right? But that also means If you change your behavior, why is it peak? Because everybody else wants the power. So if you are reducing the power on the grid is not likely to fail, right? So this is, again, he essentially did it by putting sensors into every device in his house. He basically remodeled his house and put a sensor for every electrical outlet he had. Again, obviously he can do that as a faculty. He has a lot of free time, right? So in this summer he did that. He got his PhD students to work on it. But the fact is devices which you can purchase from a Walmart. It's not like a fancy device you have to order anywhere, right? These are very simple devices that cost very cheap. You can also buy and put it on your meters now. This is another study that probably asked. This is more futuristic. This is what prediction is all about, right? You want to do analysis to predict the future. Here, a whole bunch of people were asked, if you could alter the DNA of your child, what would you want your child to be? This is like the saying we have that Shankaracharya's father was asked, do you want a dumb child who lives long or a smart child who lives short? And he said, smart child who lives short. Look at what the men wanted. The men all asked, I want my child to be smart, right? Intelligence is what the men asked. Women wanted the child to be very long, healthy and all that. So it goes back to the Shankaracharya thing. The father said smart and short living, right? That is what has come back. What has come back is saying that Europeans and Americans, everyone in Americans wanted intelligence. Europeans did not care about intelligence. Because if I could change the DNA, I would look at the looks and the healthiness and all that stuff, right? So it tells you how to look at people. What is it that people value more, right? This is a hypothetical question. If you could alter the DNA of an unborn child. But with that question, when you roll it out on social media, when you get access to all the people in the world, now you can make a profile of how people think in this situation, right? I'm close, I'm done, right? And so the other piece that people figured out is between men and women, this is not just women in India whose parents said don't go out. I have 2 girls, okay? So I don't fall in that category, but they're very small. But they've essentially meant that families or parents tend to be very strict with women across the globe, right? So women don't have to feel bad that somebody in US is able to go out in a party in the evening and I am not. They face the same challenges, just that you see when they go out, okay? So there are, very strict. Men were very easily let off. It's not just one. So you cannot come back and say Indian men or Indian parents are very strict with daughters. Parents are very strict daughters, right? So now you can change the way people think about India or any other sort of developing country, saying, okay, there is parda, so women are not empowered there. This is not the case. Everywhere parents are the same, right? So it's also used for mindset change. This is very simple. We all wake up in the morning, right? Very simple exercise. But it also tells you what people. So naturally, 27% of people only wake up. So if you are somebody who needs alarms and somebody to pour water on you, don't worry. You are a normal person. Because only less than 30% of people can wake up on their own in the morning, right? 39% need a clock. 1% had a rooster to wake them up. Okay, I don't know how. 9% had the children call them. 11% wanted somebody to call them. If you thought somebody calling, they would not wake up, right? And there are pets calling 6% of people. Okay, so it actually tells you. So this is a simple study. Look, it's very simple. Doesn't ask too many questions. Very nice form factor. This is one of the things we can do if we had been part of the human face of big data project. It was an app, and the app gave you this kind of an interface, right? It also tells you one thing. If you ask people very simple questions, they're easy to give answers, they will give answers. If you give like a 50-page questionnaire and say fill dot here, there, nobody's going to give you some. Very simple. There's a silly question, but the idea was to see if people are going to give an answer. And look at that. You don't really need to read child to know it's a child, person to know person, pet to know pet. It's also important, right? So that also means that it crosses the language barrier. A lot of people would not know how to read English, right? Because the project was meant to be for the world. So we had to do something. Obviously, you can put other languages if you have enough money and time, right? So quickly to conclude, these are all exciting stuff which is happening. We should be aware of it. As I said, when you wake up in the morning, no matter who you are, you need to start running, right? Otherwise you're left behind. But this is the fact of India I have seen in the last 3 years, right? When I went back and I came back hoping that things have changed, our politicians do say a lot of things are happening, good days are coming. But this is the fact. This is fact in places which are half an hour from Bangalore. This is not in some rural Bihar and UP that our politicians pay, right? Karnataka is one of the most advanced of places, right? These kinds of stuff still exist. Electricity is not there. I work in healthcare in a place very close to Bangalore. The electricity comes only 4 hours a day. And that place is run by somebody who has a Padma Shri. Okay? That person cannot get electricity to his office for 8 hours. Forget about 24 hours. He has a Padma Shri not given today, a lot of years back. He knows who is who of India. He cannot get more than 4 hours of electricity. Right? Think of the common man. This is the condition. This is a very pitiable condition. This is sanitation in most villages, which is open. Right? The government's thing of planning latrines or whatever manholes essentially stops at just putting the device, but they don't put a cover. They don't give a shed. The shed is supposed to be built by the family, and most families don't have homes, so they cannot afford to build a shed to cover the urinal that is given by the government. So these are the government projects. Government says we give so many urinals to the villages, but if you don't put a cover, nobody can go in public. Right? So I would also request you to Google this person called, he's known as the poop guy. Okay? Sorry, it's a bad name, but he has been recommended by Bill Gates. His project, he came back in 2006 and started a project or a group that looks at building urinals. Okay? And he looks at all community urinals and tries and goes and sort of addresses the problems there. But he's doing a fantastic job of doing that, right? And the fundamental thing he says is when I go into any public or private toilet, I look at whether I am going to use it. The moment you ask that question for anything in India, you will solve the problems in India. When you start believing that it is not for me, that is when the problem starts. And I was telling somebody who brought me from my hotel, saying, look at the potholes on the road. If I and you decide somebody else is going to fix that problem, the pothole is going to be there because everybody else is thinking that, right? So these are problems which we have. As I said again, very lucky that we are all here. There are schools which don't even have this. This is in a school, okay, by the way. There's in a school which runs today, there's midday meal schemes, all that stuff. It doesn't have doors and windows. A lot of women, a lot of girls drop off of schools at the age of 6 and 7 because the schools don't have good urinals. Okay, it's nothing to do with education. A lot of myth has been in media saying parents pull the kids out because they don't want them to educate and all that. There's nothing to do with that. Simply the girls don't want to go to the open toilets. So they tell the parents that we don't want to go to school. Okay? So a lot of things have to change before Achhe Din aane wale hain. So Achhe Din aa sakte hain. Okay? I am a big Modi fan, but Modi cannot change the world. Okay? And the reason I am a big Modi fan is he stands from Vadodara, where I was born and brought up. Okay? And so it's a big BJP bastion. But I feel that I have seen the change in the 10 years in Gujarat that he has brought it, right? Everybody has flaws. Hitler had flaws too, right? So it's not like nobody has flaws. I don't say that what he did was correct, but we should look beyond. What has Manmohan Singh done in 10 years? Nothing, right? The great economist, he made a lot of money, but what did he give to India? So we have to pick between the devil and the deep sea. I picked. Okay? So thank you. Lots of stuff to be done. Thank you for your time. Hope this was useful. Thanks.
Thank you, sir, for an interesting session. I invite Dr. G. Santosh Kumar, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, CUSAT, to present a memento to Dr. Ullas Nambiar as a token of our appreciation.